Ruslan.
The real reason why most aspiring entrepreneurs never make it to become entrepreneurs. But before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan, and our third channel, Mastermind My Business, exists to help you master your business the master's way. If you're new here, if you're not new here, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this video. Big shout out to my guy, Sean Cannell, Think Media Podcast. It's titled, Don't Quit Your 9 to 5, Yet Do This First. Okay, Sean Cannell, Think Media. We will be at the Grow with Video Live conference coming up here in a few weeks. I'm super excited. Our whole team is coming up. So super pumped on that. He had Ken Coleman on from the Ramsey personality list, Ramsey Network on, and they talked about something I think is very important. And the implementation he gives at the very end of this, I think, is brilliant.
You got to be an entrepreneur. It's the only path, but it's also really kind of not what the numbers show, and it may be kind of overrated. What are your thoughts on it?
I love this question because 70% of Americans, according to recent data, want to be self-employed. Okay, they want to work for themselves, but only 6% are. And so there's a massive...
Let's just first stop and go, that's a massive disparity.
That's crazy.
That's a massive disparity. Now, I gave Chris my pushback on why I think this is. I don't know if people liked it or not. We were talking about something else, but I think the principle applies. 70% of people want to be entrepreneurs. 6% are.
Yeah.
Self-employed. We looked at best-selling books from 2022. One of the best-selling books that came out, one of the best books I've read that came out, is a book called Atomic Habits. I love this book. I recommend everybody reads this book. It's not a Christian book, but it's a great book. All the top 5 books that came out in 2022, what they were all, they were fiction books. Out of the 10 books that came out in 2022, meaning bestseller books, Atomic Habits, one of the most revolutionary books you can read to help you reprogram your brain, reprogram your habits, reprogram your life, was number 6. Okay, and the number 1 book sold almost twice as many copies as it did. Meaning, I don't remember what the number 1 book was, but it was sold like 2.8 million in 2022. Atomic Habits sold like 1.4 million in 2022. Okay, it's gone on to sell 3 million. When you look and you pull out the disparities between how many books a Lord of the Rings sells, how many books a fill-in-the-blank fantasy book sells, they're astronomical. And so my conclusion is that if we just look on consumption, there's way more people consuming fantasy, romance, fiction than there are who are consuming, I'm reading 1 or 2 books a year that are going to help me reprogram myself, reprogram my thoughts, and change the trajectory of my life.
Yep. Right?
So perhaps what we're consuming is why there's such a correlation in 70% of people want to be entrepreneurs, but only 6% are entrepreneurs. What do you think?
I think it's a great point, because your whole point is saying that the biggest difference between the 70 and the 6 is access to information, right? So if that 70 isn't doing the things in their off time to get into that 6%, then they're never going to get there. They're just going to be like, oh, I want to do this thing, but they never read an Alex Hormozi book. They never watched or never read Atomic Habits, they never read the core things you need to do to get into business. Then you're never going to get into business.
Yeah. I'm not saying fantasy books are bad. I'm not saying fiction books are bad. What I'm saying is if you're a part of the 70% and you say you want to be a part of the 6% and all you do is consume the same things that the 70% consumes, and then you're frustrated because you aren't a part of the 6%, perhaps there's a disparity for that, right? And it's not that you're a terrible person. It's that we naturally drift towards not doing the hard things that we know we should be doing.
Yeah, between what people say they want versus what they're actually doing. Now, there's a whole host of reasons why, but I'm going to tell you that, and the data doesn't show this, but I've just coached 10,000 plus people, and I can tell you with great confidence that the reason that most people aren't pursuing it is because it's way harder than they initially realized. And ultimately, they've made a decision to say, I actually don't want this. So what is it that they want? What's behind the data? I think what they want is freedom. They want autonomy. I mean, this is the human spirit. So you asked the question, the pros and cons of working for yourself. So based in the shadow of that data, let's go back to your question. Well, the pros are you work for yourself. The con is you work for yourself. And this notion that I can be totally free and do whatever I want with my time is not a complete thought, because you know this very well. I know this because I ran my own company for 5 years. I can do whatever I want with my schedule, but when I am the paycheck and there is no one else to rely on, and I'm driving it, well, then all of a sudden, I'm never off. It's very hard to turn your brain off. You were sharing so true.
He's cooking.
He's cooking.
He is cooking. Oh, man. You never turn it off. Javier rightfully pointed out, right? 40 hours a week or 24/7. That's how it can sometimes feel, right? And so that disparity is interesting. But I love what he gets at is he says, what people really want is freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
They don't actually want to be responsible for everything.
Yeah, totally. What they're saying is if you're creating your own schedule, it's not that you want to work for yourself, because that implies, do you have the discipline to assign yourself tasks and know that those are the right tasks to do? Whereas...
And how long they are you're supposed to be doing them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then can you do those over a long enough time horizon without anyone holding you accountable, even if they're failing in the short term? And so that is probably where a lot of people fall short when it says, oh, I'm going to work for myself. So his point about the freedom is huge, because it's like you really want the ability to turn off your brain, to have the external accountability that you might get from a boss, but you also want to be like, you know what, I'm not going in today. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna work from the coffee shop today. You know, it's interesting.
But just for the record, I've never worked from a coffee shop or not went in today.
yeah. Working from a coffee shop is overrated for sure.
Yeah,
because it's fun, but it's not productive.
it's overrated.
It's not.
I've never done it. I haven't done it. Well, let me take that back. When I first quit my job in 2015, before I had an office space, I would go to Starbucks because I just didn't have nowhere else to work.
Yeah, you might like it for writing now if you find a quiet coffee shop.
Yeah,
to just escape and just be like. All you have to do is like buy like a tea, and they're like, welcome.
Transparently yesterday over lunch of the pressures that you were feeling. And interestingly enough, the pressures from success. I wish the audience could hear that. I'm sure they've heard some of it. But I was struck by a reminder that you were sharing some of the turbulent times you were going through as a result of success, not failure. So that's the other side of it. The pros are, there's no lid on you. The con is there's no lid on you. And this idea that if I go start my own thing and work for me, I'm going to be completely happy is not true. It's true for some, not true.
He's cooking.
Yeah, he's
true for everyone. So the coaching advice I give on this issue is there needs to be a deep problem, a problem that's deep in your soul that you want to solve. And so all of a sudden there becomes this beautiful marriage between the problem and the solution. So the reason you got into what you do is because ultimately I think I see problems out here in this space, and I think I have the solution or solutions and can be a part of it. And so all of a sudden the marriage between I see a problem that I think I can help solve, and I actually have a solution, and I want to provide that solution. When you get to that place, now you're at ground zero for being an entrepreneur and working for yourself.
This man's cooking. Now, he's going to give us something very, very, very practical. But let me just say this. We've had a couple record-breaking months here.
Yeah.
Right? And I just signed a publishing deal with one of the major publishing houses.
Yeah.
Right? I'm working on a book. But then, we ran the math on just, payroll, health insurance.
And we still got to work.
And I was like, whoa! Right?
We still got to work,
We
baby.
still got to work. And it's I don't want to say suffering from success, because that just sounds so
that's pretty cringe.
Yeah, but that that added pressure of you get to continue building and there's no lid. But it is there's new levels, there's new problems, there's new challenges, there's new numbers to hit.
Yeah, I think his point on when you have a problem that you care so deeply about and you have the solution that can solve that problem, now you're at ground zero for being self-employed is huge. Because I think a lot of people
don't know what that is.
They know what that is. They go around being like, oh, I want to be self-employed. I want to start a video business. You know what I'm saying? I want to start a t-shirt company.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, that's cool. What's the level deeper? And it's key, because it's like, do you care enough about that one thing to actually do it for a long enough time? And oftentimes it's just not thought out enough, and then it just burns and dies. Even what we're doing here, I feel like it hits all of those things. And in the past 4 months, we've hit a new kind of perception of what that is, to where now it's really clear, and that's more, and then now it's like a 1 to 5 year plan type of thing, and it's just so obvious. But with that direction, it's able to go, okay, there actually is a problem we're solving. We have the steps to do those things, and then now we just need to build the infrastructure and continue to mold the audience and write the books and do all that stuff. And so it's very clear what the next years look like because of that. Imagine not having all of that. Then you get the YouTubers that are like, I just burnt out, man.
One thing that doesn't get talked about is health insurance and childcare costs are astronomical, make it difficult to effectively do entrepreneurship. You're totally right. I could have quit my job in 2012. We had a run as the breaks. 2011, I put out a song a week. 2011, we put out 3 retail projects or 2 retail projects. I don't remember. It's 3 mixtapes, 2 retail projects. 2012, we had like 30 college shows booked. Going into 2012, we had a killer year 2012. I could have quit my job then. I didn't because we couldn't afford health insurance. Because health insurance back then would have been like $1,000 for like all of us.
All right, so why does everyone say Obamacare? This is so off. Why does everyone say Obamacare made health insurance skyrocket?
I don't know, and I don't want to get into the weeds of it. I don't know. From my understanding, some people like myself, after I discovered Obamacare and that passed in 2015, we had health insurance through Obamacare, and so I was able to quit my job and then go do being an entrepreneur. Which I think is good because entrepreneurs are just going to drive more economic value, right? But unfortunately, that did negatively impact some people, and their rates ended up going up. Or they had a business of 50 employees, and if you have over 49 employees, all of a sudden you have to get everybody health insurance. And so,
there was like rules to it. Okay, that
and
makes sense.
those entrepreneurs were negatively impacted. Other people had their HMOs or whatever negatively impacted. So there were people. I don't know personally. I don't know any of those people, but I've heard those murmurings.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so it's tricky. So now we got so tired of dealing with Covered California and the forms and all the weird stuff. So we just get health insurance for everybody. This is like our month 2 or whatever. So it actually, for me, feels great to not have to go through any sort of program or portal online or any of the nonsense and just buy health insurance and just pay for it outright. And we got the most expensive plans. And employers are incentivized to just buy health insurance because the taxes aren't the same. If you give somebody a raise, you have to pay some of the payroll tax, and so you actually end up losing more money than what you're paying them, versus if you just buy somebody health insurance, it's a complete flatline depreciation. Thank you so much for watching that video. Guys, I believe that one of the best ways you can build a business is by first building a platform online. So Zach Sparazzo put together a free training for you on the #1 metric you can be looking for to explode your YouTube platform. Click the link in the pinned comment below so you can start that now. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.